welcome back, everybody. Eric and Geoff with you, as always, to break down what's going down in MMA. This time around, we're going to be predicting UFC 133, but before we get to that, here's your MMA news update.
Here we go. First in your UFC update news, the UFC bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz defended his bantamweight title against Uriah Faber at UFC 132 this July. Cruz will now defend his bantamweight championship against Demetrius Johnson October 1st on UFC on Versus 6 in Washington, D.C. It's also been announced that Uriah Faber will take on Brian Bowles for the #1 contender status at bantamweight. Uriah is looking to try to get revenge since he's coming off of the loss of Cruz. Jose Aldo, the UFC featherweight champion, will defend his title against Ken Flo Florian at UFC 136 in Houston, Texas. Phil Davis is injured. Tito Ortiz is in. He's looking to take a shot at John Jones' light heavyweight belt with a victory over Rashad Evans. And here's your predictions.
Thank you, Geoff, for that amazing news update. And now, guys, to break down exactly what is going down in UFC 133, Geoff, what's going down UFC 133?
UFC 133 is at the Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the first time the UFC is returning to Philadelphia since UFC 101, where BJ Penn defended his lightweight belt and choked out Kenny Florian, and Anderson Silva went up to 205 and knocked out Forrest Griffin. We're going to give you the co-main event and main event predictions for this fight. First, we're going to start off with Vitor Belfort and Yoshihiro Akiyama. Both fighters coming off of a loss. Belfort just lost to Anderson Silva, and Akiyama just lost to Michael Bisping. Eric, how do you see this going down?
This one going down, this may be a little bit of a controversial statement I'm about to make, but I really think Akiyama has not won a single fight in the UFC. I thought Alan Belcher beat him fair and square. I believe that was at UFC 100, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So really, I don't think Akiyama's won a single fight in the UFC yet, and I think this next one's going to be no different. I really think Vitor just got caught with an amazing kick by Anderson Silva, the same kind of kick that Machida did on Couture. So, but I still think Vitor Belfort's going to look good. I think he's got good hands, good power, and I think he's going to go in there, and I really think he's going to be able to take this fight.
Vitor's got excellent striking, very, very good boxing, and he's got a very good ground game, but we don't even get to see it because he knocks out people. But after this loss to Anderson Silva, I don't know how he's going to be at 185 pounds. He didn't look very good against Anderson in terms of cardio-wise. He looked like he was kind of slow. But I see Akiyama probably maybe having the advantage because he's fought at 185 before. He always puts on fight of the night at the end of the day. I see this being a great fight. I do see Belfort winning by unanimous decision. Probably if Akiyama takes it to the ground, I see Belfort having no problem using his jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah, exactly. I just think Akiyama, honestly, I think Akiyama is too big for middleweight. I think he should drop to welterweight, but I don't think he ever will because he won't really be sexy Yama anymore. You know what I mean? I think he'll look, a little skinnier and whatnot. So I think he does look good. He does put on entertaining fights, I guess you could say, but it always seems like he's worn out by the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Because all that muscle, I think, gasses him, or I don't think Vitor is really going to have that problem in the fight. So I really think, I think Vitor's going to be able to take this one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, of course, in the main event of this one, we do have Rashad Evans versus Tito Ortiz, ladies and gentlemen, not Phil Davis, as Phil Davis actually ended up getting hurt on that one, and Tito Ortiz steps in as a somewhat last minute, but replacement. So, Geoff, how do you see that one going down?
Well, this is a really interesting situation we're in here because Tito Ortiz a month ago was being talked about being cut. Yeah. And being washed up and being completely done, needing to retire. Mm-hmm. He wins over Ryan Bader, who was top maybe 7, knocks him down in the first round with a big right hand, and chokes him out with a guillotine. Yeah. Saving not only his UFC career, but now steps up to the plate last minute to fight Rashad Evans, who's off a 14-month layoff. Yeah. He hasn't fought since he fought Quentin Rampage Jackson at UFC 114 in May. So I think Rashad Evans with this will kind of have a disadvantage because Tito's been more active in the UFC lately. He just fought 3 weeks ago. Rashad Evans might have some time to try to get used to it, but I still think Rashad has a better striking game. And you know what? I think Rashad probably has just as good as wrestling as Tito and probably a better ground game. So, Tito has very good jiu-jitsu. He almost tapped out Lyoto Machida with a triangle, and he did choke out Ryan Bader. So he's got some underrated jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I think Rashad Evans is better striking and probably the same amount of good wrestling. What do you think?
I think this is going to be really interesting for a number of reasons. One of which, a lot of people didn't like the first time that Evans and Tito fought because a lot of people thought Tito won, but I believe he got points taken off for holding onto the cage, so it was considered a draw. They have fought before, so now they're going to fight again. That's one thing that's really interesting. Another really interesting thing is a lot of people, including Dana White, say that Octagon Rust is not a myth. Last time Evans fought was, I believe, May of last year, so that's over a year. And they usually say after years when you really get the Octagon Rust. And Tito's coming off a win, so he should still be in really good shape, ready to go. And plus, Evans also hurt his knee and also is switching camps. He no longer trains with Greg Jackson. So all these things put together, I think, make this a really interesting fight. And it's going to make it interesting to see what Rashad Evans comes out, Yeah. Is the Octagon Rust really going to be that big of a thing on him? Was his injury really going to jack him up even more on this fight? Is him not training with Greg Jackson going to be a good thing or a bad thing? And, dude, I don't know. All those things make it to where this is going to be a really interesting fight to watch, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, this is a bad situation for Rashad Evans because he kind of has the pressure to win this fight. Tito's stepping in last minute. He doesn't have all that pressure on his shoulder. Rashad Evans has to step up kind of and win decisively if he really wants to fight John Jones and squash the bad blood he has with him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing where I think a lot of people kind of want Evans to win because a lot of people do still want to see Evans versus Johnny Bones Jones, assuming that John Bones Jones does beat Rampage that's coming up. So, I don't know. And Tito, it's a good thing for Tito anyway, because I think even if Tito wins, at least if he loses, he's not going to get cut by the UFC most likely if he loses to Rashad Evans, you know what I mean?
Thanks so much for tuning in to our UFC 133 predictions. Be on the lookout for UFC 134 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where Anderson, the Spider Silva, the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, will defend his middleweight title against Yushin Okami. Shogun and Forrest will have a rematch, and Big Nog and Brandon Schaub will have a heavyweight showdown. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks so much for tuning in. Eric and Geoff, as always, giving you our predictions. We'll see you next time. Boom.